Have you ever wondered if you should write a book because there's already other books available on your particular topic? I understand why you might think that. It can feel like there's 27 books on real estate investing and it would be pointless to just write another one, especially if some of those books are written by big names or celebrities in your industry. But the fact is that you not only carry a different perspective than those authors, but also people who are interested in the subject matter typically will purchase all the books. Like, do you have any idea how many marketing books I have? I have bookshelves full. I have entire rooms full of marketing books, and I'm not going to stop buying them just because there's already 27,000 on my shelf. Here's the thing you need to understand. When you're writing in a heavily populated niche, you can't be boring. And the trick is to master your message and differentiate your book from all the other books on the shelf. I dive really deep into the topic of mastering your message in my online writers workshop, and you can access that in the link below. But in this video, I'm going to teach you how to differentiate yourself from all the other authors in your industry and stand out as a leader, even if everything you have to say is exactly the same as every other book on the shelf. So there are lots of ways that you can differentiate yourself from those other authors, even if you're talking about the exact same ideas that's in all those other books. The first way you can do that is to find comparative titles. Go grab some of those other books. Maybe you've already got them on your bookshelf, and choose some points that you disagree with. Can you hone in on just one or two aspects that you really think that maybe the other authors just glossed over them and you want to go more in depth on just one or 2 points? Or maybe you have a completely different viewpoint on just one aspect that's in those books. Or maybe you think that they completely skip over and never even mention the most obvious thing that's out there in your industry that really needs to be talked about. You can find little pieces of differentiation in other books, and then you can run with them. So you don't have to talk about the entire topic. You don't have to talk about everything you know about selling real estate. You don't have to talk about everything you know about building a business or parenting or whatever it is that you're teaching. You just have to pick one or two things that help you stand out and help you be different than all those other books on the shelf. Another way that you can differentiate yourself is to take the established general knowledge, the things that everybody believes, the myths that everybody believes, and poke holes in those arguments. Find those accepted truths and then decide that they're wrong. Well, make sure that they are wrong first, but decide that they're wrong. And then tell people about that. Is there something that's out there that's dangerous? Is there a myth that people believe that's just plain wrong? You can disagree with the standard arguments. You can disagree with what is accepted general knowledge. In fact, that's one of the best reasons to write a book, is if you have a different take on something that's been out in the world for maybe 10, 20, 50, or even 100 years. So disagree, that's okay. It's wonderful to have a different viewpoint, and that helps differentiate your book from every other book on the shelf. So what questions does the reader have that aren't being answered in the other books? You already know what all the arguments are. You already know what every other author is talking about in their books. So what questions do you get from your clients and customers that aren't addressed in those books? And don't think that any question that they might be asking is too simple. Don't think that you can't answer that because everybody knows. Well, maybe everybody doesn't know, because if they did, they wouldn't be asking the questions. So if you can come up with a list of 5 or 10 questions that you hear all the time, day in and day out from your clients and customers, and you aren't finding them in these other books, maybe it's time to update the industry. Maybe it's time that your book comes out and says, hey, these are the questions people are asking now. All those other books, they were written a year ago, they were written 5 years ago, they were written 100 years ago. They don't apply anymore. Here's what people want to know now, and this is what I'm giving them. So try to be the newcomer in the industry. You're the one that's going to give the fresh answers to all those questions that you're getting from your clients and customers. And if your clients and customers have those questions, don't you think your potential future clients and customers are going to have the same questions? Of course they are. So that's a great way to reel in those clients and customers through your book. Now, you can take the opposite stance in terms of sophistication level and level of understanding of the target reader. So if the readers for all of the other books on the shelves are beginners and the authors have written down to a very beginner understanding of your topic, you could offer a more advanced view. You could offer a higher level view. That sets you apart. Or vice versa. If every other book is too advanced for most beginners and they're just not as accessible and people have a hard time understanding what's being talked about, you could write a beginner's version. You could write Real Estate Investing 101, or you could talk about parenting for teenagers or people who are single mothers or whatever. You want to see where are most of the books in the world written, to what level, what sophistication level of understanding do they have? And then you write the opposite. That's a great way to differentiate yourself. Another way has nothing to do with the actual content of the book. It has to do with, what does the book look and feel like? If most books in your industry are really heavy, like 800-page tomes with an academic style and big blocks of text, and they're very difficult to read because maybe it's like tax accounting and it has to be important and academic and it has to be very serious. Well, maybe you could write a short, easy breezy book with a more accessible tone. Heck, you could write a graphic novel about the same topic. You know, you don't have to follow what everybody else is doing. That's what differentiation means. It means you're taking a completely different take on the industry and the way that books are being presented. So if there's a way that you can make it different, if most books in your industry are a standard 8.5 by 5.5 trim size, which means the size of the book, maybe you could write a little tiny one. Maybe you could make a big coffee table book. Like, think about, how does that book physically look and feel? Could you make a really tiny book but have it be a hardback with a jacket and make it look really fancy, something that people could give away as a gift? Or could you maybe, like I said, make a coffee table book with lots and lots of photography and really beautiful pictures and maybe just a little bit of text? Think outside the box as far as, what do those books look and feel like, because that's going to differentiate you as well. How about including lots of illustrations, or even going full out comic book style? How cool would it be to have a tax accounting book that's a comic book? Like, that's really awesome. If most of the books in your industry talk about the author and their tips and their strategies, and everything is about them and their great information and their font of knowledge, maybe you could put the focus on your clients, put the focus on your successful customers, people who have used your method, but share their stories. So instead of you teaching boring, dry concepts, you're actually demonstrating how those concepts work through case studies and success stories. So the key to establishing yourself as a recognized leader in your industry is to inspire, educate, and sell. This is the proven method that we use to write books for all sorts of successful entrepreneurs, and they'll serve you no matter what niche you're in. I've included a link below to my book, The Profitable Business Author, and it's going to outline this whole method with lots more valuable tips for effective writing. If you're ready to finally get that manuscript written, get it out of your brain and out onto the shelves, just click the link below and let's get started.